Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me today, and we are going to have a really interesting conversation. I am super excited for this. So thank you, Jessica, for being a part of the podcast.
My pleasure. I'm really excited to be here. Based on our conversation that we had, a month ago or whatever, I know that we're going to have a really amazing chat.
We're gonna go in. Well, and I love the fact that, I was even going through like your website and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that talk about health and wellness, right? There's 10,000 different things out there of what you should be doing, could be doing, and all the things. And I do believe that there is a very big difference in nutrition and being functional with what it is you are doing with your body, and also being aware of what might particularly be causing it, which means, right, we have to actually be present, which is not something that we're really great at, right? Especially when we live in these times where hustle is a thing, or, as a high performer, you're always trying to get things constantly done. I think that we miss a lot of these small signs that I know we're going to get a chance to talk about. So I appreciate you coming in to share this information and really kind of talk about the root causes of these things and the practical ways that we can get through this and how you can help.
Amazing. I'm excited to dive in.
Awesome. Well, then as we get started, please do us a favor and tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
So my name is Jessica Van Antoine. I help high-performing female founders and entrepreneurs get back the energy, the mental clarity, and the focus that they need in order to show up not only for their businesses, but in the rest of their lives. So essentially just kind of being more resourced, coming fully into alignment with themselves on multiple layers of being, so that there's more of them for themselves and more of them for everyone and everything else.
Oh, I love this. And I think that everyone should be aware of this as well, right? That any person that, and I know this is more toward women, but I know some guys that are like this too, that are like more forward in nurturing and making sure everyone is taken care of. We always end up putting ourselves on the back burner. And then we wonder why eventually we all of a sudden got a cold that used to be my thing. I would get like these sinus infections out of nowhere. And it wasn't like something you could just take a little bit of medicine. It was like I was down on the couch for 2 to 3 days, sleeping on and off all day, because my body was like, well, if you're not going to stop, we're going to do it for you.
Stop. Yep, exactly. It happened. Totally.
I love that. So how did you get into functional medicine and understanding these layers and components?
Well, I have a long career in health and wellness. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years in a variety of different roles. So I started kind of coming from the muscular healing as a massage therapist, essentially. So looking at muscular alignment and
Okay.
in health and wellness industry, and I don't know if this is how it is in other industries, but we often say that we seek the things that we need in order to heal ourselves. And I definitely found that to be true. Massage therapy is, and especially the program that I went through, it was not just a mechanical kind of medical approach to massage. It was very much spiritual. And we talked about how emotions store themselves in the body. And so that has been a part of my work since the very beginning. I have since gone on to become a yoga instructor, a meditation instructor. I had a specialty in shiatsu, and so deep, deep study in Chinese medicine, breath work, qigong. I own a wellness retreat company, and so for me, it's always been about for a large part of my career, it was always kind of approaching health from like the mental, emotional, spiritual side by down regulating the nervous system. Okay.
Mm,
Now, I had my own experience with a nervous breakdown after working 90 hours a week, managing a wellness center of all things, like working in this industry. And it just kind of underscored the limitations of what those practices can do for you. So I found that, just as the universe would have it, a functional medicine guy walked into the clinic the day of my sort of breakdown at work, and he wanted to talk to someone about teaching classes there. I was the person he needed to talk to. In learning about what he does, I immediately jumped on board and started and just came to understand that there were fundamental physiological imbalances in my own body that were predisposing me to overwhelm, to a heightened state of fragility, to poor sleep, low energy, and just again, like being on edge and being really irritable. That was kind of one of the signs for me. Like I'm not an
mm,
irritable person, and yet I found myself like snapping at my team. And through the process of resourcing my body, healing those systems, rebalancing everything, then all of a sudden it was like I became bigger than my stressors. And so that's when I knew like it's all layers of the being, right? It's the mental, the emotional, the nervous system, but also the biochemistry, the physiological aspects that contribute to how we show up in the world and whether or not we are feeling drained or whether or not we feel like on top of the world and like I got this, you know?
yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, 90 hours a week. Like, holy cow.
Mhm.
Um, that's incredible. I also want to talk a little bit about like the understanding of health and wellness because I feel like health and wellness is such a huge, broad term that so many people use. And I know that like for me and other people that I've talked with, like the first thing that you go to is like weight loss and how am
Right,
I eating, right?
right. And
And
that's
like you're saying, yeah, exercising. That's like the small component. However, there's these other underlying layers that really make more of a difference at a core level. And so I'm really curious, like what are some of those components that maybe we should start with before going into that? Or does it matter, right? Can we start eating healthy and weight loss and then that? Or do you feel like there's a specific order?
No, I think that any order you approach it with is a valid order. You know, what works for one person isn't going to work for someone else. And that is one of the fundamental tenets of my work is that it's all individualized based on where a person is, what the next component that would really move the needle for them is. Diet and exercise is certainly a great place to start and really accessible place to start. Um, However, some of those other components, like your mind affects your body, right? So it's, and this is getting into like neuroscience and the work of Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton, where you have these thoughts. Your thoughts actually produce chemicals inside your brain. Those chemicals are then circulating throughout your body and bathing your cells. Your cells have a relationship with the environment around them. They have like if you imagine like little satellite towers kind of like assessing what's going on in the external world and which is still internal to your body. And so whatever those thoughts are that you have in your mind are producing certain chemicals, your cells are responding to those chemicals. So if you don't also address like mindset, for example, the way you talk to yourself, what you think about yourself, then those physical interventions, a good diet, exercise, aren't going to move the needle. If you already have the good talk going on, but you don't necessarily have the good lifestyle habits, that's where those come into play. It's just, it's a really comprehensive thing. It's physical health, biochemical health, that allows for the expansion of ourselves into other layers of being, better emotions. When we feel good physically, it's easy to be happy. But when you don't feel good physically, when you're in pain or you have digestive discomfort or you're sick, like generally you're not going to be all smiles and like lighting up the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
your physical body affects your emotional body. Your emotional body also has a reverse relationship. It affects your physical body, as I just explained. So all of these layers of being communicate with one another and interrelate with one another.
Oh my goodness, so many layers. I always think about it like when we talk about like an onion and trying to understand. So you just keep peeling things back. And I never really thought about understanding the chemical process of kind of what's going on as well as you're trying to do the other things. And I think back to like multiple times in my life where I have always been physically active, but maybe my eating habits are not the best, especially when you have two teenage boys at home and like everybody's eating everything, right? And I would notice that like when I would shift what I was eating, I would feel better, but it would be like this peak and then it would kind of go back down. Have you ever
Mm-hmm.
heard of that happening with clients?
Well, it sort of makes sense, right? Like, I mean, not specifically, but in understanding how the body works, I can kind of parse it out.
Yeah.
So you're used to kind of eating, say, processed food, junk food. All of a sudden, you kind of shift to more whole foods, and unprocessed food. Your body's like, woohoo, we got vitamins and minerals on board. And so there's that burst of like, yeah, energy. We have some of the resources that we need. However, that doesn't necessarily fix some of those physiological imbalances that are going on internally. So you get that little burst, peak of feeling good, but then your body realizes, like, oh, this is definitely some of what we need, but it's not all of what we need. So now we're still going to kind of continue to give you some of those messages that we're trying to communicate what it is that we actually need.
Okay, makes total sense. So let's say, okay, I'm eating a little bit better and I'm starting to do exercises a little bit more. And I'm
Mhm.
working on like the self-talk. What else is the other components that are in there? Especially, I know that you talk about, working with high performers and things like that, where we're constantly on the go. We're looking for the next thing. We're trying to get all the task lists done. I think that's a mom as well, but that's a whole
I
other
would say moms are
conversation.
high performers. Yeah, totally. And moms could be positioned as like business owners. They're like in the business of raising children. That's a
Absolutely.
legitimate job.
Absolutely. It's just unpaid. No.
Yes, exactly. Undervalued, certainly. So what can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So we were talking about like if I'm beginning to eat a little bit better and then we're
Oh yeah.
getting some of the physical activity in, right? And we're working on that self-talk, like what are those other components
Mhm.
that go along with that, especially when we have this got to get things done kind of a mindset.
Okay. So you can be eating well, but if your digestion isn't functioning properly, then you're not necessarily absorbing the vitamins and minerals from the food that you eat, or
Mm,
from the supplements that you take for that matter. You can be exercising, but if you're doing it to such an extreme that it's actually exhausting your body, then it's actually draining your capacity rather than providing you with energy and really fueling your body. So there are limits to, what a good diet, what good exercise can do for you. In functional health, we look deeper. We look at what your hormones are doing, how your digestion is working, whether you have any pathogens in your gut. There's this whole thing with, cyclospora going on right now, and everyone's
oh
getting this
yeah.
incredible digestive trouble from a parasite that is in the food that they're eating.
Hmm.
Parasites can be difficult to get rid of. They can also be very sneaky, so not as apparent as what people are going through right now with that. So really understanding like how all of the systems of your body are functioning, again, on that physiological, biochemical level, like am I eating? You can be eating a great diet, but you could be eating foods that your body has like a low level reaction to. So it's not a full blown allergy. You don't go into
Hmm.
anaphylaxis, but it's creating low level inflammation in your body, which takes a lot of your body's resources in order to fight and quell. So inflammation can cause imbalances and all of the systems of the body work together, right? So where there's an imbalance in one system, something else is compensating. And so
Mm.
in Western medicine, you generally go to the doctor with a set of symptoms. They say, "Oh, let's do some tests on this system, on your whether it's your GI tract or your kidney or your liver or your heart." But they fail to look at what how everything else in the body is compensating. And that's why I feel like increasingly people are disillusioned with Western medicine and finding themselves in a position where it's not resolving their issues because they treat the body as if it acts in silos. And so not everybody in functional health operates in the way that I do in terms of like looking at all of these systems at once. But I can tell you like this is where the best outcomes happen because we've identified like not only the system that's out of balance, but also the other systems that are compensating. We address everything at once, and inherently, your body has the innate intelligence to heal itself unless it does not have the resources. So we resource all of those systems to come back into 100% function, hence the term functional health, right? Like I was confused by that term for a long time. I was like, what does that even mean? Where did that come from? And so if I was confused by it, I just want to like explain it to other people so they can actually understand like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like 100% function, right? Um, and and from that perspective, like we're really resourcing the physical body. Then, if we need to do some of that mental work, then we can do some of that. If we need to adjust exercise again, because maybe it's a little too extreme for where your body is now. If we need to look at your sleep hygiene, because that's when the body really rests and repairs. So it's not only the biochemical, it's the lifestyle, the health and wellness. It's so comprehensive, is what
Hmm.
I would say. And we're really looking for root causes. That's one thing that really distinguishes us too from Western medicine. We're really trying to understand like, well, why are your hormones out of balance, for example? Because that could be caused by inflammation. It could be caused by a thyroid thing. It could be caused by blood sugar imbalances or just stress. And then stress is kind of like circling back to the original question is again, you can be eating the cleanest diet and exercising and taking care of your body, but if you are constantly in a state of fight or flight, then you're fundamentally changing the way things are operating inside your body.
Mm,
So
it
really bringing that
really,
forward.
it is so amazing how much stress can damage the body on so many levels,
Yep.
right? I mean, I'm even seeing research and stuff that are talking about like the causes of heart attacks and certain cancers that are starting to be connected to just stress, just overwhelming amounts of stress. And
Yep.
especially like you were saying, when your body is in fight or flight for so long, right? I mean, I think back to when I was in my abusive relationship. I mean, that really became my life where most of the time I was in fight or flight. There were times where we had some good moments, but I remember when I left that relationship, like I had put on 20 something pounds. My hair was like falling out in clumps every time that I brushed it or washed it, right? Like there were different things that were going on. And I ate really healthy back
Yep.
then, and it was interesting because I got to watch kind of the progression. And especially now I get to look back and I'm like, wow, like within a matter of less than a year, I dropped 25 pounds after leaving that relationship. And I was able to start sleeping better. And, there were still other things that my body was dealing with and working through, but I was able to start seeing those changes. And like nowadays, 12 years later, like my hair is the healthiest it has ever been, right?
Yes.
And I feel a lot better about my body. And I was really athletic, as a kid, as a teenager and into my 20s, but I never understood, and we're not taught this, right? How much the things that you go through really do damage all
Mhm.
kinds of parts of your body, not just physically and mentally, but like you're saying, right, at a cellular level.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have so many stories of my brother was in an incredibly stressful job and was like dry heaving every morning before he started work, which is
Oh,
just like
wow.
that's like a huge red flag. It's not just like a little red flag of, oh, I have some brain fog or, I'm not sleeping well. That's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
To the really extreme in terms of, and to your point about certain cancers being connected with stress, like I am 100% convinced my stepmom is battling ovarian cancer. It's a recurrence. It's been 2.5 years. She's an incredible woman and a fighter, but I am 100% convinced that both times when she got the diagnosis, it was because of an incredible amount of stress in her life. And it was all stress
Interesting.
related because she was, I mean, she just fits this picture so perfectly. Like she ate well, she was thin, she exercised, but there's a limit to what those things can do for you when you're in that state of fight or flight.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to go back to gut health for just a little bit because to me, and I've just started kind of like scratching the surface on some of this, but I have been so fascinated by understanding like the level of importance of
Mhm.
your gut health, right? Like
Yeah.
most of us are like, when you like gut, okay, like so don't eat a bunch of carbs, don't put this in your stomach, don't do too many sugars. No, like there's so many things to
There's
it that
so
I'd love for you to kind of dive into, in regards to gut health, because I also realize that the saying trust your gut
yes.
actually come, and I was like, what? Okay, so just for anybody that's
Blow your
listening, and
mind.
I know we'll kind of touch base on this, but anytime that you hear quotes, sayings, and things like that, there is a level of something that has truth, which is the reason why that quote or saying became a thing, right? And so trust your gut actually has significant meaning around your gut health and what it means and how it is connected to the brain more than what we understand. So I'll let you
Yep.
take it away, but I really want to kind of dive into this a little bit because I don't think that this is something that is talked about enough when it
Agreed.
comes to health and nutrition and wellness.
Yeah, luckily it is becoming a larger part of the conversation, and it doesn't just have to do with nerve endings, right? Like I think a lot of times when you start learning about this stuff, they're like, "Oh, your gut has like 1,000 times more nerve endings than your brain," which is true, or what whatever the math is, but I think a larger part of it that is very undervalued is the balance of the microbiome, right? So we hear about probiotics a lot, and we're starting to
Hmm.
talk about like prebiotics and postbiotics more and more. And basically, the whole premise is that like you are not just you. You have billions of microorganisms living inside your body, right? And we want them there. We have actually co-evolved with these bacteria in our gut over millennia, and we've actually outsourced some of the jobs of digestion to these bacteria. Okay, so and there are bacteria that prefer sugar. There are bacteria that want to digest carbs. In this coevolution, essentially, there has developed this line of communication between these bacteria and between our brains. And so they are in constant communication, like kind of telling us what to do. So if you do struggle with intense sugar cravings, it might be enlightening to look at the balance of bacteria in your gut and see which guys in there might be overgrown, which bacteria might be responsible for that. And so candida is a
Mm.
big one, for example. But that's when they say like, so there are bacteria that we want, right? Again, that we have outsourced some of the digestive function to, but there's also
Hmm.
bacteria that we don't want. And when the innate bacteria, the good guys, are out of balance, then it kind of sets the stage for the bad guys to come in and set up shop. The ones that really mess with our digestion, that contribute to inflammation, that contribute to bloating and gas and these kinds of things, like any kind of digestive discomfort, constipation, diarrhea. And in this community, I mean, having a good balanced microbiome, like you said, I think is incredibly undervalued. Having an out of balance gut microbiome can lead to symptoms that you wouldn't necessarily consider, right? Like, sure, there's all those like kind of stomach centered stuff, all the things that I just mentioned,
Yeah.
even like attention, ADHD, ADD, difficulty focusing, brain fog, those can all be caused by an imbalance in your gut microbiome. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Now
because of
I'm
that
like thinking of
communication.
my kid.
It's because of that bacterial communication between, the guys that live in your gut and your brain.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, now my 22-year-old's about to get a conversation because he
Nice.
doesn't eat the best anyway, and I think about because he does have ADHD and I think about the things that he eats. And okay, anyway, that's side conversation. Him and I are gonna have to have talks. So, okay, so you're saying that the regular functions that a lot of us take for granted, focus, being able to recall, all
Yep.
those things
Yep.
can all be affected just by the microbiome being off.
Yep.
That is crazy. My brain is like blown right now. Like, hold on, did everybody write that down? I need everyone to take a moment. I need to pause the podcast. I need everyone to write that down.
Yeah.
So, what is some of the first steps to even look at something like that to understand where you would go from there?
Testing, I mean, functional testing. There's a pretty comprehensive test called the GI map that looks at the balance, like the presence of any bad guys like viruses, pathogens, parasites, and bad bacteria, as well as the balance of your good bacteria and how that, again, might be setting the stage for some other guys to move in and set up shop. And then it also gives insight into some digestive markers, like how well are you digesting fat? Do you have, we get an insight into like your digestive enzymes, how, the strength of your stomach acid potentially, because all of those feed into the quality of your digestive processes also. That test is covered by most insurance through a regular doctor because it is a diagnostic test. So
Oh, okay.
I would say start there.
Okay. And then like let's say that they do that and the doctor gives them kind of the breakdown, but there isn't a lot from there except for like go take some probiotics. Is this kind of where you come in for some of those? I know a lot of other pieces and components, but to help people better understand like what that means, where we can start and where you can go deeper.
Yes, exactly. Because the interpretation from a Western doc is different than the interpretation from a functional health practitioner.
Yeah.
We're looking for a bit narrower range of what we consider to be optimal or ideal. Whereas Western medicine has a much broader range of what is acceptable to them. They're just trying to prevent you from like keeling over and dying when you're walking down the street. Functional health, we're more focused on like what is going to make you like feel your most vital and your most healthy. So again, it's a smaller set of values that we're looking for, and we have different approaches. A lot of times doctors will just put you on antibiotics. Maybe they'll recommend probiotics. The
Hmm.
functional approach is more plant-based supplements. Not like lifelong prescriptions that you're going to have to stay on forever, but how can we really return and repair the systems of your body, again, to that 100% function so that you don't have to be taking these supplements forever for the rest of your life? And then how can
Okay.
we like adjust the diet in order to support the maintenance of a good balance in your gut microbiome? And all those other aspects, right? Like, how can we get you sleeping better so that your body does have that rest and repair mechanism so that everything is able to rejuvenate overnight? But then also,
Okay.
as I was mentioning, in terms of like if one system is off, there's oftentimes compensation going on in other systems of the body. So
Hmm.
potentially, and I hear this a lot, like, oh, my doctor said my labs look normal, but I don't feel normal. I know something is off. And so
Mm.
that's where we can kind of zoom out and say, okay, well, what's going on in the other systems of the body? How are they compensating? And maybe the root cause of what you're dealing with is coming from somewhere else and just masquerading and like popping up over here, you know?
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So I feel like all of this and doing, your research and things like that really, would you say that it also plays into sometimes the feeling of like burnout for a lot of us as well versus I feel like burnout is again it's one of those like loosely used terms that's all over the place and I believe that a lot of times when I speak with people it's attributed to you just doing something to the max and wearing yourself out but it sounds like there may also be these other components that you focus on that also could lead to it as well.
Yes, absolutely. Again, the stress of pushing through and just kind of go, 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 like your body is not designed to do that. That's not what we're here for. It's not nourishing to your body. And so yes, it certainly has to do with lifestyle, but it also affects the physical body. And when you address it from the physical standpoint and then the lifestyle standpoint, that's when you have the fastest results and the fastest kind of recovery. Because again, when you exist in that state of fight or flight, And let me just dive deeper into this for a moment. I've mentioned that it changes the way that your body functions from the inside out, but it is because it's a
Hmm.
survival mechanism, right? Like imagine yourself being prehistoric times, before social media, before screens. You're like living on the prairie and a saber-toothed tiger is approaching from, the horizon. Your body goes into fight or flight, and because you may not survive an attack from a saber-toothed tiger. So the focus of your eyes changes so you can see far away, you can see this approaching predator. Your blood goes from your core out to your limbs so you can run away. Your body sort of puts on the back burner digestion because it doesn't need to absorb the vitamins and minerals from the food that you eat if you're not going to survive the next
Mm.
minutes. Your body puts on the back burner reproduction. Who needs to gestate for 9 months when, again, you may not survive the next 5 minutes? It also puts on the back burner immunity, which is like the long-term, battling and eradication of any invading pathogens in your body, as well as healing of just like a cut that you sustained on your finger from making dinner last night. So you may notice that, healing is slower. You're getting colds all the time. You are having fertility issues. Your digestion isn't working. These are all signs that you are existing in that state of fight or flight. Because when your body's in a state of rest and digest, then it can focus on those long-term processes, right? Circulation
Absolutely.
changes, your heart rate comes down, your breath rate comes down, your blood pressure comes down, and then digestion comes back on board, immunity, fertility, healing. The problem is, in our modern world, we can't tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger on the horizon and like the notifications that are nonstop on our phone and our computer and all the things that all the people are wanting from us and pulling us in a million different directions, right?
Hmm.
So when we exist in that state of stress and fight or flight, like the again, that you're just undermining the processes of your body. And so even if you're eating well, even if you're exercising, even if you're trying to do stress management techniques, there's a limit to their efficacy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that makes a lot of sense, especially when I think of, and I'm going to include myself in this category because this used to be me, even those that I feel like we're like, yeah, but I can handle all the things. So it must not be that stressful, right? I feel like I used to be that person in that category of like, yeah, but I can work the 60 hours and I'm still spending time with my kids. And I mean, I'm sleeping at night. So like, I'm not
Mhm.
stressed. I'm not in fight or flight. Then I'm fine. And I think that anyone that's listening to this is like, yeah, that was me, needs to understand that that doesn't mean that your body doesn't see it in a different way, right?
Right. Right. Well, and to talk about it from that perspective, like, yeah, we can do that for a while.
Hmm.
What we can, because when we're in that state of fight or flight, our body produces cortisol, and cortisol actually has like anti-inflammatory effects and analgesic effects, so pain relieving. So when you're,
Mm.
at first you're like, I'm on top of the world. I'm like a batter, just like, in batting practice, and I'm just hitting them out of the park, one after the other, one after the other. But eventually, your body stops being able to keep up. And that timeline is different for everyone. It could,
Hmm.
for me, it was only a matter of, I think, like 6 months, less than 6 months of working 90-hour weeks before my body was like, nope. Some people can do that for years, before their body
Hmm.
takes them down. But the body has a finite amount of resources, just like your bank account. And so when you're making those withdrawals, you're like, yeah, I can do this, but the account balance in your body is like going down and going down and going down. And that's why you can do it for a while until that account balance reaches a place where it starts to be overdrawn. And your body's like, oh,
Mm.
like, okay, now I'm going to show you that we're not sleeping as well. Now I'm going to show you it takes an extra cup of coffee to get going in the morning. Now I'm going to like it takes an extra glass of wine to unwind at night. And that's how people begin. They start like kind of self-medicating with not medications, but just sort of substances, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of the first step and the first sign that there's some deeper imbalances going on that might need to be looked at.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And speaking of those imbalances, I want to chat real quick, and then we'll talk about it toward the end as well, because you also have a mocktail book,
Yeah.
which I feel like I want to make sure we have enough time to talk a little bit about it versus just stating it as a freebie at the end.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it at the end to make sure everybody is aware of it. But I kind of want to go into it a little bit because from what I was reading, like you were talking about taking some of these things and making them something that you can put back in your body. Obviously, you've got to give yourself rest and recovery and stuff. But can you talk a little bit about this and kind of explain what this is?
Yeah. So, in addition to, the good things that people know about in terms of like eating well and exercising, like those are making small deposits to kind of continue the metaphor of the body as a bank account. Those are making small deposits into your body's bank account. They may not be enough to offset the withdrawals, but it's a great place to start. There are other ways to make deposits into the body's bank account. And so the adrenal mocktails, this is where this comes in. And they're kind of hot right now, at least in the health and wellness field. They're beverages, non-alcoholic beverages that are designed to kind of do whatever you need in the moment, whether it's to calm down at night and help you unwind, or if it's to kind of like wake up and help you get going in the morning. A lot of them are electrolyte based, so you'll see a lot of like a little bit of salt added to these beverages. Uh,
Okay.
that are more lower in sugar, so it's not going to kind of spike your blood sugar and then you come crashing down. Some are designed to kind of combat brain fog and that afternoon crash. So they serve different functions, and the ingredients are all in there, listed next to them why they're in there, like what they do for you.
Ooh, okay. I
Yeah, and
love
so
that.
these are small ways to, again, just to provide those resources that the body needs.
Okay. Now, you called it an adrenal
Yeah.
mocktail, right? So
Uh-huh.
for anyone that's not familiar, what exactly is the adrenal? What is the purpose of it?
Yeah, so the adrenal glands, they sit right above your kidneys in your body, and they are the organ in your body that is responsible for producing cortisol, which is widely known as a stress hormone. However,
Okay.
cortisol is also it's the get up and interface with the external world hormone. So levels of it are necessary in order for us to just like function out in the world. It's when it gets
Hmm.
too high and stays really high for really long that's when it becomes a problem.
Okay.
So these are sort of um, the adrenal glands are also responsible for the balance of electrolytes in the body. And so that's why electrolytes and salt and magnesium and potassium are kind of main components in these adrenal mocktails. So that we are helping. So instead of trying to wring water from a stone, for example, like if your adrenals are so exhausted but you're still making demands of them and you're trying to wring that water out of a stone, that's where the adrenal mocktails come in because they're providing this external resource rather than demanding it from the production of it from the body.
Okay. And you talked about electrolytes a few times.
Yeah.
Why are electrolytes so important for the body?
Good question. So electrolytes are essentially sodium, magnesium, potassium, and we are electrical beings. There are electrical impulses passing through our bodies, through nerve pathways. Muscular activation is all electrical signaling. So they're super important for those functions of the body, that signaling to run smoothly. They also like activate the cellular gateways essentially. So they tell your cells to open and to close. And
Oh,
that's what actually allows your cells to absorb water that you drink, for example. So if
oh,
you're a person,
interesting.
yeah, so if you're a person that is like drinking endless amounts of water and yet you still feel dehydrated, it could be because your electrolyte balance is off. The water could just be passing right through you and not actually getting absorbed into your cells. So, especially if you live in a humid climate like Tennessee, where you sweat a lot, salt leaves your body with your perspiration. And so it's very
Hmm.
important, and especially after exercise, if you're sweating, to replenish, or even if you live in a dry climate like I do in Colorado, super important to replenish your electrolytes. Again, so you're not
Okay.
putting too much demand on your adrenal glands to produce them from the inside out.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. Because, like when I think electrolytes, and I'm sure there's so many people, like my first thought goes to Powerade, right? Or Gatorade. And I'm like, but it's so sugary.
Yeah.
Or people go to The powders, like Liquid IV, I know is one of
Yep.
them. I think there's a tons of different brands out there. What are your thoughts on things like that?
They're not the best. Of course, Gatorade, Powerade, like you said, full of sugar and dye, which is not good for your body. And, sugar spikes your blood sugar, then you come crashing down. Dyes are just a, synthetic toxin that your liver has to process out of the body that were never meant to be in your body. Um, Even Element and Liquid IV, while I appreciate what they're trying to do, and Element is better than some others, but like if you actually look at the percentages of the things that they're purporting to deliver to your body, it's something like 2% of your daily potassium, like 4% of your
Ooh.
daily magnesium. You're like, what? This is supposed to be like sodium and potassium and magnesium. That's what electrolytes are. It's really mind blowing when you kind of look at the
Interesting.
science of it. So my favorite
Hmm.
electrolyte supplement is from Trace Minerals, and I have no affiliate relationship. I'm not sponsored. I get no kickback from Trace Minerals, but just in my own research for myself, I found the Trace Minerals Electrolyte Stamina gives you like 60% of the magnesium that you need on a daily basis, like 40%.
Wow.
So just read labels, when
Hmm.
you know that electrolytes are sodium, potassium, and magnesium, then you can look at the label and be like, how much of this am I actually getting with this thing? Or is this just like a marketing gimmick and I'm wasting my money?
Hmm. Definitely a marketing gimmick like that. I think that's something to strongly pay attention to because when my youngest son was in ROTC, he was doing these huge competitions, and it was a lot of obstacle courses and crazy things. And that was one of the things that they constantly promoted. Was like liquid IVs and stuff for these kids to have. And I started doing some research, and I'm like, man, I just don't agree with that. So my son and I kind of sat down and talked a little bit about it, and we ended up actually finding something that is like a Gatorade, and I can't think of the name of it right now, of course not, but it's coconut water based.
Oh yeah,
And
coconut water, excellent source. It does have
yeah.
kind of a decent amount of sugar in it, although it's natural sugar. But coconut water is a great alternative.
Okay. Yeah, it was something that had like coconut water was the base of it, but then it had the electrolytes and things in it as well. And that's what we did. We were just reading the labels, trying to compare, just some of the basics because they had to have it and we knew that they needed it. But I was like, okay, can we do something that's maybe a tad bit better? But I
Yeah.
just think that a lot of us don't think about reading those labels, right? We've gotten so used to being able to trust people. And unfortunately, there are so many marketing gimmicks out there and loopholes in
Yep.
what people say and why they are able to say what they want.
Yep.
Is kind of scary because you want to be able to trust, but you really have to be able to do your own research.
Yep. Totally. I mean, even with organic, right? Like the label organic or something is like
Yeah.
certified organic. Did you know that there are certified organic pesticides that they are allowed to spray on organic produce and
What?
still call it organic? I mean, talk about a loophole. It's
Oh
insane.
my goodness. Nope. Well, that's
Yeah.
a new one on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
it's really disturbing when you stop to think about it. I mean, is it better than regular pesticides? Sure, certainly. Like, I mean, you can just tell in the quality by looking at a conventional red pepper versus an organic red pepper. Like,
Yeah.
the organic one is bigger, it's brighter, but yeah, it doesn't mean it's perfect.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, okay. So be aware of all the things. And then when you're ready to dive deeper, you just go to Jessica and she can help you understand all of it instead of you going out and doing, nights and nights of research, which I mean, let's be honest, most of us don't have time for that anyway. And we do want to be healthier. We do want to be able to function. And I know brain fog is a huge one, but be able to just live a day to day and not feel like we're forcing our way through it.
Yep, not like drag yourself through your day. Have energy left over after work to, hang out with your kids or play with your kids or have a social life or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it's really important to stay away from the words that we use as a way to push ourselves. So like motivation, right, is always, well, if I had more of the motivation, and even like you say on your website, like it's not always motivation,
No.
right? There are all these underlying things that again, we just aren't taught, we don't pay attention to, not a lot of people. I mean, we're definitely starting to see people talking about it more and more. But you think about like your parents and your grandparents and like there weren't those conversations. And a lot of that stuff was more farmer based, right? I mean, we have farmer markets and things now that are really gaining popularity, but it's like back in the day, right? Like that is what they had. They didn't have all these mass produced things with all these pesticides and everything else. And I think that we've gotten away from caring about people a little bit and more about how do we make the money, which I think is why Western medicine is kind of taking a downfall as well. And that's not to say that, every doctor is bad. I've worked with some really good ones, but unfortunately, there are some out there that just, they know they're going to make the money regardless, and they know that you need it. And so like, it's bare minimum, unfortunately.
Well, it also comes down to their education too. It's what they were taught. You know what I mean? They're not taught about nutrition in med school. I don't know if you knew this, but med schools are in a large part sponsored and funded by pharmaceutical companies. So their curriculum is designed with the pharmaceutical companies like hands in there, like teach them about this medicine for this and this medicine for this and this medicine for this. Like the two things that they're taught in med school are pharmaceuticals and surgery. Those are their tools that they have to fix
Yeah.
you. They don't talk about nutrition, or maybe it's like a 12-hour course in a 10-year education. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They don't talk about, and more to your point, like there are doctors that are kind of like waking up and being like, there's something
Oh,
wrong.
absolutely.
Like I got into this industry and this profession to help people, and what I'm doing isn't fixing it. It's addressing the
Hmm.
symptom, and it's not actually getting at the root cause. So how can I take it upon myself to educate myself in other modalities and methods and ways of actually helping people?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Okay, Jessica, I have so many more questions, but as we come to a close, because you shared so much, and thank you so much for being so open and honest about everything. Where can everybody find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, great. I am primarily on LinkedIn as my social media channel. So Jessica Van Antoine on LinkedIn. The name of my company is Phoenix Functional Health. And we are at Instagram. You can see some of my old posts from a year ago at Phoenix Functional Health. And website, of course, phoenixfunctionalhealth.com.
Awesome. And thank you so much again for being a part of the podcast and sharing so openly with everything.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we're going to have all that information in the show notes, make it super easy for you to connect with Jessica, be in her word, be able to work with her. And don't forget the wonderful ebook that she is gifting to everyone. So we'll have that information and a link in there so you can pick up the adrenal mocktail, which let me tell you, I went through some of those recipes and they sound so yummy. Like I am downloading it myself, and my husband and I are going to try some because we're not big alcohol drinkers, but I love something with a little bit of, fizz and twang and
Yeah. And like something special to drink instead of alcohol, like after you've been drinking
yeah.
water all day or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you again so much for
Absolutely.
providing all the information for the ebook for everybody to be able to get a copy of. Yeah, I
Pleasure. It's been a
um,
delight. And yeah, I just loved the natural progression of our conversation and the flow.
well,
So
thank you so much. Well, again, like I said, we'll have all that information in the show notes. Be sure to get a copy of her ebook so that you can have those as well. And again, remember, when we are talking about our health and our bodies, there is a lot more that we don't know, that we haven't discovered, that we don't understand. And we do need to make sure that we are being aware of it because it is affecting us in a lot more ways than what we realize. And one of the things that I know a lot of us do, especially as high performers, is we wait until we hit that giant wall and we're knocked flat on our back before we say, oh, I should probably think of this. So people like Jessica are definitely those that you want to have in your back corner to help you understand what is going on so you can make those changes. And those changes are going to be lasting, as we kind of talked about in the beginning, instead of, like me going up and down through that. So thank you again so much, Jessica. To everybody else that's out there, I hope you got some amazing tips and pointers from this conversation. And don't forget, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later. Thank you so
so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable